Hello, this is Jen, the Liberty Lion, and today I'm continuing videos on the series of states. So this is from the 40th Congress, first session, S7, in the Senate of the United States, March 6, 1867. Mr. Sumner asked, and we talked about Mr. Sumner when we mentioned Mr. Cowan's statement in the Congressional Globe of 1867. Mr. Sumner's asked and by unanimous consent obtained leave to bring in the following bill, which was read twice and ordered to be printed. So obviously there's some people in Congress who want to take over the states, the independent states, and force them in under the federal government. And there's some people like Mr. Cowan who understand that that's wrong. So this is a bill, and I'm just going to read it to you. I only have this one page here. If I can find the entire thing, I will upload it. This will be uploaded on archive.org. A bill to guarantee a Republican form of government in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Texas, and to provide for the restoration of these states to practical relations with the Union. Whereas in the years 1860 and 1861, the inhabitants of Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Texas changed their respective constitutions so as to make them repugnant to the Constitution of the United States. And whereas the inhabitants of these states made war upon the United States, so obviously there's two different places. The inhabitants of the states made war upon the United States. So the people of the state made war upon the military state, the federal government. So the civil government went to war with the military government. And after many battles finally surrendered, well, of course, because the military has all the power, under the rules and usages of war, which is kind of strange because the whole purpose of the military was to work for the states, the independent states, not to overtake them and use the rules of wars against them, but to use the rules of war to protect them. Why would anyone join a union that could turn around and make war with it? That's not what the Constitution meant. It's not what its purpose was. It's not what its intentions were. And whereas the inhabitants of these states, the independent states, the free, sovereign, and independent people that created the states, that created the Union, at the time of their surrender were without legal state governments, and as a rebel population, which can't be a rebel population, it's impossible in this scenario, were without authority to form legal state governments or to exercise any other political functions belonging to loyal citizens, and they must so continue until relieved of such disabilities by the lawmaking power of the United States. Now, we already know that the United States only has lawmaking power over the United States, which according to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, is the seat of government and places purchased. And it continues, and whereas it belongs to Congress in the discharge of its duties under the Constitution, and I don't have this next page, so I can't read that to you. But I want to point out here that this is March 6, 1867. Okay, and then in the previous video, I read to you from July 19th, 1867. And this guy, and I'm not sure who it is, it may be Cowan again speaking, I'm not sure. And he says, and I go on to further explain this in the previous video, I'll just read it real quick. Because he's saying this bill, he's not referencing this bill, but the idea behind this bill is a spectacle and it's a contradiction. And this is what he says. A singular contradiction is apparent here. Congress declares these local state governments to be illegal governments and then provides that these illegal governments shall be carried on by federal officers who are to perform the very duties imposed on its own officers by this illegal state authority. It certainly would be a novel spectacle if Congress should attempt to carry on a legal state government by the agency of its own officers. It is yet more strange that Congress attempts to sustain and carry on an illegal state government by the same federal agency. Okay, so he's saying that how do you take over something that's illegal and just by the mere fact that you took it over makes it legal when you're doing the exact same thing as you were before? You're just doing them through your own officers. And there's another federal writing that says that they wanted to do this because the federal officers would not leave the Union. And I believe this is basically the way that government is ran now, is that the legislators are more loyal to the Union or the military than it is to the people that supposedly elect them. And this was done under the manipulative tactic and guise of a civil war and freeing the slaves. And of course, there should never have been slavery, but that was just something that people did back then in those days. It was coming to an end according to some sources, but that's for another day. So this is more information, S7, March 6, 1867, and this, as well as the other documents, will be uploaded. And all of these will be under state, the heading state. So if you want to find more information about states and all the information that I have and my opinions on what's going on here, just look up the titles, look through the titles, and anything that has state as the first word, you'll find the information there. Like, share, and subscribe. Please leave a comment. I'll see you in the next video.